The galaxy had long since forgotten the sound of human voices. In the ruins of dead worlds and derelict stations, the word Earth had become a ghost story, a whisper traded between alien crews over cold reactor hums. Some said humanity had destroyed itself in a final act of defiance. Others claimed they'd simply vanished, a species too reckless to survive their own brilliance. For 3,000 years, that had been the accepted truth. Until the Tarkal Dominion arrived at the edge of the Perseus Rift. Their ships, black monoliths bristling with plasma spines, devoured everything in their path. They conquered in silence, annihilating what they couldn't control. To them, war was not conquest, but cleansing. And when they reached the silent border systems once belonging to humanity, the Dominion paused, not out of fear, but curiosity. No species had ever built so much, then vanished so completely. Among the Tarkal fleet was an observer named Vethrak Sorin, whose task was to catalog extinct civilizations. He had studied the hollow remains of human stations, corridors lined with dust and flickering lights still powered by cores that hadn't failed in millennia. But it was what he found on Erebus Station that unsettled him most. A single transmission, endlessly repeating. It was weak, distorted, an ancient distress beacon buried under layers of interference. Yet the signal contained one unmistakable sound, a human voice. To any survivors, this is Commander Aaron Holt, humanity endures. Then static. Vethrak ordered the station destroyed, claiming contamination. But when his fleet left the rift, one small drone detached and drifted toward the dark side of a nearby moon. Hidden beneath centuries of debris, it found a sealed hangar, and within it, a ship that still breathed. The USS Valkyrie was old, older than any star chart still in use. Its hull was scarred, its engines cold, but deep inside its cryo bay, frost cracked and shifted as a figure slowly stirred. Commander Aaron Holt awoke to darkness. For a long time, he didn't move. The hum of life support was faint, uneven. His vision flickered between fragments, warning lights, frozen screens, the faint echo of a voice saying cryostasis stable. Then memory returned like a blade to the chest. The fall of Sol. The Ether War. The evacuation of the last colony fleets. The blinding white light that tore through Luna Base as the Dominion's first ships appeared in the sky. Humanity's final transmission, we are not gone. We are waiting. But that was centuries ago. Holt staggered to the command deck, breathing cold air that smelled of metal and age. The starlight outside was raw, unfamiliar constellations, shifted spectrums. He called for the ship's AI. Valkyrie, online. A hollow, static-tinged voice replied, systems at 3% functionality. You have been in stasis for 2,982 years. Holt's throat tightened. How many others survived? Cryo integrity failure across all pods except yours. You are the last recorded human aboard. He sank into the command chair, staring at the stars. The last human alive. The last echo of a species wiped from existence. Or maybe not. The AI displayed the last recorded distress beacon, coordinates deep within the Perseus Rift. Holt remembered sending it before losing consciousness. If the signal had survived, something might have heard it. He didn't know it yet, but someone had. And they were coming. Far beyond the rift, aboard the Tarkal flagship Obsidian Veil, Vethrak stood before the Grand Seer. The alien's translucent body shimmered like liquid crystal, its many eyes reflecting light in endless patterns. You concealed this transmission, the seer hissed. Why? Vethrak bowed. Curiosity, my seer. The humans were said to be annihilated. Yet this voice. The humans were a contagion, the seer interrupted. If any remnant remains, we will extinguish it. But something in Vethrak's mind, something dangerously close to fascination, refused to fade. The human voice had sounded defiant. As the Dominion fleet turned toward the rift, Vethrak requested permission to lead a reconnaissance detachment. His reason was academic, his true motive, unspoken. He wanted to see one. Back aboard the Valkyrie, Holt worked in silence. The ship's ancient system sputtered, barely responsive, but his hands remembered every switch, every circuit. He rewired coolant lines, rerouted power, coaxed the engines back to life with pieces scavenged from dormant drones. He wasn't repairing the ship to escape, he didn't even know where to go. He was repairing it because that's what humans did. They built, even at the end. And somewhere deep inside, a small, irrational hope grew. Maybe Earth wasn't completely dead. Maybe some hidden outpost had survived generations living in darkness, waiting for someone to return. He didn't know the truth, that the galaxy had moved on without them. That every species that had risen after humanity had rewritten history, calling themselves the inheritors of the fallen. And now, those same inheritors were coming to finish what their ancestors had begun. The first contact came as a ripple across Valkyrie's long-range sensors, a distortion too precise to be natural. Holt froze as three massive signatures appeared, gliding through the void like silent predators. "Valkyrie," he whispered, "identify." "Unknown." Energy signatures match no known human or allied design. A sharp tone cut through the bridge, a transmission. "Alien." "Harsh." "This is Tarkal Dominion vessel Vorintesh. Identify yourself or be purged." Holt stared at the comm display, the words washing over him like acid. The Tarkal, humanity's executioners, still lived. He could stay silent, hide in the wreckage, hope they passed. Or he could answer, and remind the galaxy that humanity was never truly gone. His hand hovered over the comms switch. He felt the pulse of his own heartbeat echoing in the dead ship's hull. Then, with a slow exhale, he pressed the button. "This is Commander Aaron Holt, United Systems Navy. Humanity endures." For a moment, there was silence. Then the alien voice returned, quieter, almost disbelieving. "Impossible." Holt's reply was calm, deliberate. "You wanted to finish what you started? Come find me." The transmission ended. Outside, the void trembled as the Tarkal ships turned toward him. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy remembered what fear felt like. The Tarkal did not answer right away. Their ships hung in the void like black scars against the stars, silent but seething. Then, all at once, they moved, forming a ring around the Valkyrie, weapons humming with the cold certainty of extinction. Commander Aaron Holt watched from the bridge, his jaw locked, the pulse in his throat a steady drumbeat of defiance. The Valkyrie had no real weapons, no shields worth mentioning, and a reactor that could barely keep the lights on. But he refused to lower his voice, or his will. "Valkyrie," he said, "bring the forward comms array online." The AI hesitated. "Commander, our odds of survival weren't any better 3,000 years ago," Holt muttered. "Open the channel." A field of static resolved into a voice, low, guttural, and utterly alien. "This is Overseer Vethrak of the Tarkal Dominion. You are an anomaly. Surrender for examination or be reduced to atoms." Holt's eyes narrowed. "Examination? You had your chance when you blast Earth." There was silence on the line. Then, faintly, a different tone entered the alien's voice, something like curiosity. "You speak as though your kind still exists." "Maybe we do," Holt said. "Maybe we never stopped." That single phrase rippled through the Tarkal fleet like a virus. Monitors flared with translation glyphs, command channels filled with questions. Among them, aboard the flagship Obsidian Veil, the Grand Seer's voice rose, sharp and cold. "Vethrak, secure the relic. We will not let the contagion spread again." Vethrak's gaze lingered on the transmission one last time before he replied. "Understood." Moments later, a beam of light struck the Valkyrie, enveloping it in paralyzing energy. Holt's body convulsed as the world dissolved into white. He woke in a cell of transparent crystal, his wrists bound by luminous filaments that pulsed with alien light. The air was cold, sterile, like breathing inside a machine. Outside the barrier, shadows moved, Tarkal guards, their bodies half organic, half metal, eyes flickering like dying stars. "Commander Holt," said a voice behind him. He turned. Vethrak stood in the doorway, hands folded, head tilted with what might have been respect or fascination. His form shimmered, tall and angular, his flesh translucent and threaded with veins of light. You should not exist, Vethrak said quietly. Your kind was extinguished in the era of Purge. Holt met his gaze without flinching. Funny thing about extinction. It doesn't stick when you're too stubborn to die. Vethrak's eyes brightened faintly, intrigue, or perhaps amusement. Your species fought until your world burned. I have studied the fragments. The songs. The recordings of your final broadcasts. He paused. There was beauty in your madness. Holt leaned forward. You studied us. Why? To learn how to kill better? The alien hesitated. To understand why you resisted. Holt laughed bitterly. Because we believed in something you can't erase. For the first time, Vethrak seemed uncertain. The silence stretched before he finally spoke again. The seer ordered me to deliver you to the core archives. You will be dissected, your memories extracted. Sounds like fun, Holt said dryly. But you're not doing it, are you? Vethrak didn't answer, but something in his posture changed, a subtle shift that betrayed thought, conflict. I heard your transmission, he said finally. The words you spoke, humanity endures. No species has spoken like that in ages. They have forgotten what defiance sounds like. Holt's voice softened. Then maybe it's time they remembered. Vethrak studied him a long while. When he turned away, he said only, sleep, human. The next cycle will bring judgment. But when Holt awoke, the cell door was open. Vethrak stood by the corridor's end, a weapon slung over his shoulder. No alarms, he said. I diverted the sentinels. You have one chance, take it. Holt hesitated. Why help me? Because, Vethrak said slowly, I want to see where your courage leads. He tossed Holt a small data core, glowing faintly blue. I accessed your ship's logs before you were captured. There is mention of a project, Lazarus. It is human. It lies within the soul ruins. Perhaps that is what your people were protecting. Holt stared at the core, the name hit like a pulse through his memory. Lazarus. He remembered the codename whispered among the last fleet officers. Humanity's final failsafe. Come with me, Holt said. Vethrak's luminous eyes flickered. If the seer discovers my betrayal, I will be erased. Then die for something that matters. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then Vethrak nodded once. Very well. Together, they ran. They escaped in a stolen Tarkal scout vessel, slipping through debris fields and dead warp lanes that shimmered with ancient wreckage. As they crossed the dark reaches between stars, the ship's sensors occasionally caught faint signals, echoes in the void. A child's laughter. A piano melody fractured by static. A woman's voice whispering, hold on, Aaron. Ghosts of soul. Holt sat in silence, the sound of old earth filling the cabin like distant memories of warmth. Your people encoded their culture in the calm spectrum, Vethrak murmured, listening. Their voices still drift between the stars. Holt's eyes were distant. We didn't want to be forgotten. We wanted to haunt them. They fell into uneasy companionship as the ship sped toward the coordinates hidden in the data core. Outside the viewport, a dying star's glow dimmed against the endless black, the sun, pale and flickering, surrounded by the broken bones of planets. When they crossed the orbit of Mars, Holt saw the shattered remains of the human fleet, drifting like tombstones. The ship's insignias faded, rusted, still bore the eagle of the United Systems Navy. Your world, Vethrak whispered, almost reverently. What did you call it? Earth, Holt said. Home. The ship's scanners pulsed. Deep beneath Luna's dark side, something responded, an energy signature older than any Tarkal record. Project Lazarus, Holt breathed. It's real. Vethrak turned toward him. And if it is a weapon? Then it's the only one we've got. They descended toward the moon's surface. The dust rose around them like ash, settling over the scarred hull of the Tarkal vessel. As they stepped out, the silence of the dead world pressed down, heavy, eternal. A field of monolithic pylons jutted from the crater floor, their surfaces etched with human script half buried by time. Holt's gloved hand brushed one inscription, worn but legible. "We were here." Beneath their feet, something hummed deep, resonant, ancient. The ground trembled as a circular door split open, revealing a stairway descending into light. Vethrak stared, transfixed. They built this beneath their moon. Why? Holt's voice was low, reverent. Because we knew they'd come back one day. And we wanted them to remember what they tried to erase. As they stepped into the glowing depths of Project Lazarus, the darkness of the galaxy seemed to draw closer, the Dominion's fleets already burning through the void, following the trail of their fugitives. Above Luna's dead surface, a Tarkal probe activated and transmitted a single message to the Grand Seer. "The human lives. He has found the vault." And the stars themselves seemed to whisper, as if the universe was holding its breath for what would awaken next. The vault was alive. Beneath the moon's surface, vast chambers pulsed with dim blue light, machinery older than the empire that had buried it. Frozen conduits lined the walls like veins, carrying a soft, rhythmic hum, the sound of something sleeping, waiting. Commander Aaron Holt moved cautiously down the steps, his boots echoing through the hollow corridors. Beside him, Vethrak's luminous eyes flickered in awe. "This is not a weapon," the alien whispered. "No," Holt said quietly. "It's something worse." At the base of the chamber, a single pedestal stood beneath a column of light. Suspended above it was a sphere of shifting glass and data, an orb of living code, its surface rippling with spectral human faces that appeared and vanished in fragments of emotion. Laughter. Tears. Rage. Hope. It spoke, not in words, but in echoes. "Commander Holt." The voice was female, layered, broken into 1,000 overlapping tones. Holt fell to one knee, his breath catching. "Valkyrie," he whispered. "You're in there, aren't you?" The AI's voice trembled through the chamber. Valkyrie, merged with Central Archive, preserving all human consciousness patterns. Project Lazarus complete. Vethrak stepped closer, transfixed. "You stored yourselves inside a machine?" Holt's hand brushed the orb's surface. It was warm, impossibly warm. "Not just ourselves. Our memories, our history, everything we ever were. They said if the body died, the soul could still travel." "And now?" Vethrak asked. Holt looked up, the light of the orb reflecting in his eyes. "Now we wake them." The Tarkal Dominion arrived without warning. Dozens of warships descended from orbit, their shadows stretching across Luna's dead plains. At the center of the fleet, the obsidian veil loomed like a god of extinction. On its bridge, the Grand Seer watched the lunar surface through a holoscreen of shifting symbols. "End this blasphemy," it commanded. "Burn their world again." Energy surged across the fleet, 1,000 cannons aligning toward the crater. Inside the vault, alarms screamed. "They've found us," Vethrak said, his voice trembling for the first time. Holt turned toward the glowing core. "Can Lazarus defend itself?" "Defense protocols, fragmented," the AI answered. "But transmission systems, operational." Holt understood. "Then we make them hear us." He slammed his hand against the console. The vault roared to life. Ancient conduits flared as energy rushed through the walls, awakening dormant systems that hadn't stirred in 3 millennia. Across the galaxy, forgotten satellites powered on, linking in a web of light. Then Lazarus spoke. Its voice wasn't sound, it was memory. It rippled through subspace, through time, through the very fabric of space itself. Every listening post, every Tarkal ship, every inhabited world felt it, a flood of images and voices, laughter and pain, songs of rain and fire. Children playing under blue skies. A mother singing her child to sleep. The roar of rockets leaving Earth for the stars. It was humanity raw, unfiltered, unbroken. The Tarkal ships hesitated. Their weapons faltered. Across the Dominion's communication bands, alien soldiers stopped moving, frozen as images of oceans and cities filled their minds. Some wept. Some screamed. On the obsidian veil, the seer convulsed, overwhelmed by the deluge of emotion. "Shut it down," it shrieked. "Erase it." But it was too late. Humanity's soul had become a contagion not of flesh, but of memory. Inside the vault, the chamber trembled under bombardment. The roof cracked, spilling dust and light. Vethrak staggered, his luminous body fracturing under stress. "Holt! I have to finish it!" Holt shouted over the roar. "It's not enough to remind them. They have to remember everything." He climbed to the control dais, forcing energy conduits open with his bare hands. Sparks burned his skin, pain blurred his vision. Valkyrie broadcast everything. Every file, every emotion, every last heartbeat. "Doing so will overload all systems," the AI warned. "Then we die doing what we should have done long ago," Holt whispered. Vethrak looked at him, and something inside the alien shifted. For the first time in his long existence, he understood. Not conquest. Not purity. But sacrifice. He stepped toward the control core, light searing through his crystalline veins. "Your species carried madness, but also truth. Let me help you carry it." Before Holt could stop him, Vethrak plunged his hands into the core. His body became a conduit, channeling the vault's unstable power outward. Light erupted through his form, splitting it into streams of raw energy that shot skyward, a pillar that pierced the heavens. Above Luna, the Tarkal fleet was consumed in radiance. The light swept through their ships, shattering systems, rewriting code, burning into their minds the memories of the humans they had destroyed. Every Tarkal who saw it heard the same voice, not Holt's, not the AI's, but the voice of humanity itself. "We were never gone. You just stopped looking." The fleet broke apart, some vessels self-destructing, others fleeing into the dark. The seer's final scream was lost in static as the obsidian veil tore itself apart under the weight of the signal. When silence returned, the vault was collapsing. Holt dragged himself to the shattered pedestal where the orb now flickered faintly. "Valkyrie," he whispered, "status." "Transmission complete," came the fading reply. "Human consciousness patterns integrated into galactic network. Humanity, remembered." The orb dimmed, its light dissolving into a soft glow that drifted upward like fireflies, vanishing into the cracks of the ceiling. Vethrak's remains, shards of crystal and light, lay scattered nearby. Holt knelt beside them, his voice raw. "You didn't die for nothing, my friend." The floor split beneath him, revealing the crater beyond and the first sunrise over Luna in 1,000 years. Holt stood there, watching the light rise over Earth's broken shadow. For the first time since awakening, he didn't feel alone. Across the stars, he could feel them, the echoes of billions awakening inside minds not their own, their songs bleeding into alien dreams. He smiled faintly. "Guess we finally got their attention." He reached into his suit pocket and withdrew an ancient patch, faded, torn, bearing the insignia of the United Systems Navy. He pressed it into the lunar dust. "For Earth," he whispered. A final message pulsed from the vault's dying systems, a transmission carried on waves of light through the galaxy, a whisper to all who could hear. "We were never gone. Just waiting to be remembered." The light faded. And somewhere, in the hearts of those who had once called humanity extinct, a strange, dangerous emotion took root, the one thing their empire had tried to erase. Hope.